Welcome to the Open Bedroom Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kalo. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, and creating relationship dynamics that truly align for you.
But I feel like a true squirting experience is not just an ejaculation, but it is a full body physical release. So this was my experience with squirting because I had never been able to squirt with a partner before. And whenever I realized more and did research and then did research on my own body, I realized I had never squirted before because I never truly felt 100% safe with who I was with.
Our favorite, Sierra Bucher, is back, and today we are talking about squirting. How do you do it? Is it even a thing? I know you've probably heard it on porn, but a lot of women are like, I don't think my body does that. Sierra, tell us all the things about squirting, because dudes seem to really be into it.
This is actually one of the number one kinks fantasies that I get asked about.
Okay.
So I like to always first start. Squirting is actually the technical term. If you Google squirting, that is the specific word for this. So I've researched this so hardcore because I never had the ability. I never had squirted before. And I was like, I know it was my partner's huge fantasy for me to do it. It was also a huge fantasy for me. So I've just dug so hard into squirting and what it is. And also over the years, I don't know how many women I have had out of the most unsuspectable women who are just like, oh, Sierra, I am a huge fucking squirter. We'll soak down to the freaking mattress. And I'm like, I never would have guessed. I literally had just one of my girlfriends the other day tell me that she is that way. And she's like, we couldn't even have sex on the bed because I literally squirt that much fluid. And
you
I'm
told her
like,
about the squirting blankets, right?
yes,
Splash blanket.
those don't do it. Those don't even do it.
How?
She literally squirts that much. So there's a lady I follow on Instagram and she's the world record holder for squirting. And she once squirted I want to say 4 to 6 cups of liquid in the Guinness World Record of squirting. Insane amounts. So first off, when it comes to squirting at all, a lot of people also think that your wetness of your vagina, of your vulva has anything to do with if you're turned on. We can be completely turned on in our brains and our vaginas and pussies are not fucking wet. Okay. That is actually a huge fact. And so I hate it whenever people are like, oh, you're not wet. You're not turned on for me. No, it's totally in our heads. We can be completely turned on and our pussies are like, not today, bitch. So lube is, of course, always important. But in order to squirt or have that natural flow of things, if you're really struggling, if you're like, well, I feel like I used to be wet all the time and now I'm just not, pay attention to your diet. What are you putting in your body? Also fluid intake. A lot of the time we're really dehydrated and we don't even realize it. If you ever want to squirt, if you actually look at porn stars and OnlyFans girls, they will tell you their secret is drinking Pedialyte. Because you have to be super hydrated. Oh, yeah. So whenever I was training myself, I was down in Pedialyte. It was a style. One, I am ADHD as hell. And so I struggle. Sometimes I'll have 3 liquids lined up. Some days I won't take a drink until 2:00 in the afternoon. So for me, a little Pedialyte is not a bad thing. But staying really hydrated is definitely going to help with just your body function, your pussy function, the moisture, how much you're getting. Squirting, though, is an actual act where fluids are ejecting from your body. So there's actually not a lot of research out there to back squirting. And if you look at Kenneth Play, he has a lot of good combos and I think some podcast episodes. I want to say some of his content, some of his more in-depth, hands-on content.
Kenneth Play is free, and his squirting video that's been viewed 1 billion times is on there. I think we should definitely put the link in the notes so people can see that.
Yes, because he is awesome. And one of the things that he points out is there is not a lot of research about squirting, and there's more that's being done, but we don't actually know where it comes from. So you have the vestibule bulbs that are right inside the vagina, and some of that comes from there. But also you have to think whenever we are becoming aroused, everything is engorging. We have fluids that are being pushed to our genitals are enlarging. We have blood that's circulating through further. So a lot of the time that fluid can come from those bulbs inside the vagina, just from that area being aroused, which is another reason why you want to be hydrated. Especially too, like dehydrated sex is not fun. You're going to be tired. You might be dry. Also consider any medication you take. We're in the cold and flu season. Any medication you take that's going to dry you up here is going to dry you up down there as well. So when it comes to squirting, being really hydrated, that fluid also, a lot of people are like, Sierra, squirting is piss. Just pee. Squirting is just pee. Squirting is not pee. So what actually can happen, you're laughing.
I'm laughing because I've had my own squirt land in my mouth and it is not pee.
I love it. Oh my God. I love squirting stories too. Like whenever I have a client that comes up to me and they're like, oh, I'm a squirter. I'm like, oh, you got stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Faux show. Although none of this is scientifically proven, what they believe squirting comes from, you can have some fluid that sits in the bladder, because think about it. Your bladder is right down there by all of those sex organs. You can have fluid that's pulled from your bladder and from that area that's not urine that is then ejaculated. So we don't really 100% know where squirting fluid comes from, but there is a good idea. And hopefully in like 20 years, we're going to be looking back on this like
how do we
professionals
not know?
knowing
we can
so
do
much
autopsies
more
on people's bodies. How do we not know where squirt fluid comes from?
Isn't
so
that crazy?
Weird.
I mean, just to think that the clitoris wasn't in the clitoral anatomy has not been introduced into OBGYN textbooks and education since 2019. That's when it was legally made that we have to educate about the clitoris. So we are behind on female pleasure, that's for sure. But man, everybody wants to know how to fucking squirt. Everybody does.
I believe everyone can. Do you believe, just like some people are like, I can't have orgasms. Like, do you think it's actually possible to not be able to squirt?
Yeah, I do, because I think there's people who are like asexual, who have like no sexual desires, arousal at all. But it also comes with, so that's just, we talked a little bit about the physical aspect of squirting, and that's important, but the most important aspect of squirting is actually the psychological aspect. So I have met dozens of clients who are like squirters every time they orgasm. I've met clients who have all different types of squirting experiences. But I feel like a true squirting experience is not just an ejaculation, but it is a full body physical release. So this was my experience with squirting, because I had never been able to squirt with a partner before. And whenever I realized more and did research and then did research on my own body, I realized I had never squirted before because I never truly felt 100% safe with who I was with. And you have to feel 100% safe in your body. And I'm not even saying safe as in, oh, they're going to physically harm me. But when we carry trauma with us and we pack really heavy backpacks for a lot of our life, we don't realize the impact that actually has on us. So whenever I did research on my own and was able to kind of put my own swing in there. The first time I actually squirted, I was like, I thought I peed. I'm like, I just peed. That's not squirt. And then I was like, also so excited because I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, that's definitely not pee. I definitely squirted. Like I watched myself like squirt. So I feel like, and I wasn't even having G-spot stimulation either. I think that's something important to point out too.
Okay.
Everybody's body's going to be different. I think there are people who maybe might not be able to, but if you're watching this and you're like, I'm one of those people, I'll never be able to squirt. Why count yourself out? I mean, I would try and explore with your body until you find what you like. And maybe it's the partner, maybe it's your technique, maybe it's the mental block in your head. But having that full body release, I feel like is a different feeling than just what I would normally have is like an orgasm. So
Okay.
whenever I have had, and now that I've taught myself, I don't have those full body releases every time I squirt now. But the majority of the times that I do are very deep, connected, intimate, like in my body releasing. The first time I did, I actually visualized the word release right when it happened. And I just
Mm.
felt my body, I felt my pelvic floor like tense and then relax, everything just like release from my body. And it was just like a undescribable experience, I would say. And then there's been times where it's just like, oh, we're just getting nasty. Like let's squirt. Like it's a little bit more calmer. But there's different types of releases. And I think it's important to talk about it. It's the same as there's different types of orgasms. There's all different types of releases. So physically being super hydrated, knowing your anatomy, a lot of people can get that squirt from the G spot. So like 2 inches in towards the navel wall, hitting it really hard,
Mhm.
making a tapping motion or like a come hither motion. For me though, I can do it with a Hitachi wand. Like, let's go. So everyone's going to be a little bit different, I feel like. Do you want to share one of your Oh God.
I'm like, I need to go play with my wand a little more because I'm imagining that you're doing it with one of those hooks, like the metal hooks that hit your G spot, like the one that Alexa showed us that she uses all the time. I don't know what that's
Oh,
called.
so like the weighted C-shaped
Yeah.
toys?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are definitely great for squirting as well because they have the weight. So
Okay.
anything for G-spot that's weighted is going to be great because all you have to do is have that
Right
rocking
there.
motion. And some
I
people
totally
need
wanna
that.
try that, but I don't have anything like that. Like, I need to go to your store and buy that. I need to
Oh,
put the link
so
below, so if everybody else wants to try squirting.
I will.
Okay.
So we have a few things. We don't have any of the weighted. We used to have one that was literally like that C shape. I
Yeah.
mean, we joked about it because it was like self-defense weapon and
Yeah.
also your squirting tool because it was so heavy. And those heavy toys, just making that rocking motion, some people need that deeper stimulation. And maybe you're the person who just needs it from a little clit stimulation. I feel
Oh,
like everybody's
wow.
going to be a little bit different.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I wanna
yeah,
share 2 stories real quick. Okay. So one was my own experience. So I dated a guy that we called him the squirter guy. Like, he was known or is known in our area as the guy that makes all women squirt. He's figured out the technique. And for me, he would spend at least an hour having me come a million times in a million different ways outside of squirting. So, I mean, I was with him usually 2 to 3 hours. So the first hour would be he'd eat my ass. So we talked about analingus on one of our recent recordings that Sierra and I did. He would then move to my pussy and eat me out for, 30 minutes or whatever, and I just would come and come and come and come and come and come and come. And then finally, when it came time to make me squirt, he would have me lay on my back and take my legs and hold my what would you call that? Your knees
guys,
in? Kinda like not
yeah,
happy baby, but more like you're gonna, like, roll around, you're doing yoga, on
great.
your back,
Mhm.
and I'd have to hold my legs up. And then my vagina is, like, kind of up, tilted towards the sky, which is where the rainfall came, and then I got it in my mouth. And he would take his fingers and, to your point, put it inside and then like, over, like, the exact right spot, which I think is that kind of spongy spot, right? When you stick your
Mhm.
fingers in,
G-spot.
yep, and you kind of go like this, and you can feel it's kind of squishy. And he would like all day long, he'd be like, make sure you're drinking your water. You have to drink over a gallon of water before you come to see me. And I'd be like, yes, sir. So I would drink a shit ton of water. And
Pedialyte next time.
yeah, right, and then he would make me squirt over and over and over, and while he was doing it, I hope Scott never listens to this episode, by the way, because he hates when I talk about this. But, he would say as I was getting closer, he would say, "Don't tense, don't try to hold it in because you feel like you're gonna pee."
It is a
He
release.
He'd say, "Push out, push out, push out." So almost like you're pushing your pee out
Yes.
as you release, to Sierra's point, then it would just and it'd fly in the air, and he just fucking loved it. And then he'd be like,
Yes.
again. And so 5, 6, 7 times, and by then your body is like limp. Then he
Yes.
would fuck me after that.
Oh
So
my
good.
God.
My other experience is actually,
Stamina.
I know, this was hours. Like, and this guy was built like a football player, like huge muscles. Just he was working out. Making all
That's
the
so
ladies
funny.
squirt. The other one is I was telling you earlier that we have a second girlfriend now, and I have a splash blanket that is maybe like twin size splash blanket. So I just lay it on our king size bed anytime Scott and I are going to play, or we have our other girlfriend over. And so we have this new girlfriend who is a squirter. And every single time this woman orgasms, she squirts like massive. Like the first
A lot
round of
each
sex,
time or just like a little bit each
I
time?
feel like it's like almost every time. Well, I told you about our night of 100 orgasms, so it probably wasn't her having 50 squirt sessions, but I couldn't tell because it was Scott penetrating her that was doing it for her. And so as he'd slide in and she'd orgasm, it was like, and he was said it was felt so good inside her to have that like gush of all the water
While
and
she squirted, he was inside her with his dick.
with his dick.
Oh,
I
interesting. I've
know.
never heard point of view. So I would imagine, I mean, wet and really warm.
Wet and warm. Yeah, he said it was just the most delicious feeling. And we have really interesting, like, each partner that we have is very different. So when Scott talks about each one of our vaginas, one of our girlfriends is very tight. And so it's almost like this pulling sensation on his cock. I'm more like not loose, but like he gets more of like a friction, like this.
Yeah.
And I get really wet, but not gushing wet. Like I'm more like slippery wet. And he loves that sensation.
You know
Yeah.
what we need to talk about sometime?
What?
I just feel like you talking, I don't know, you doing the motion. We should totally talk about pleasure for guys and the difference between pleasure between circumcised and uncircumcised guys.
Okay, let's do it.
Because I was just talking about, I had someone who told me that when you're not circumcised, it
Hmm.
feels like you're fucking two pussies with the extra skin and being in a vagina. They like, it literally feels like two pussies whenever I'm having sex.
That sounds amazing.
And I don't even know why you just bring this up. I'm like, oh my God, we need to talk about this.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Okay. So the third experience Scott gets to experience is with our new girlfriend, who he says instead of like tighter and slippery, it's like a little bit more loose than that, but just warm and gushy. And he's like,
Okay.
everyone's pussy is so great. Like, I love all the variation.
I love
And
all the pussy in my
oh
life.
my God, Sierra, after she left the next morning, I'm like, I'm buying a king size splash blanket for you. And I bought it and it's beautiful. It's burnt orange and it's the king size. It's going to cover
Oh
my
my
whole bed
God.
because after our first sex session with her, I literally had to strip the entire bed, all the sheets, all the comforters. It was
Because she
soaking wet.
squirted so
She
much.
squirted so much. So now I've got 2 blankets and I can kind of like use one and then use the other one if I need to. And I'm hoping to preserve the bed the next time.
Oh my gosh. See, I just could not even physically imagine. So let me talk about your girlfriend probably has experienced this at some point.
Mhm.
So one of the girls I was following, who is a squirter every single time, she was talking about one of the biggest struggles. And I've had a few clients who have complained about this is when you're a squirter every time, yeah, it might feel like a dream to everyone else, but to them, they can't even just go and whip out a quick masturbating session.
Yeah.
You know, think about like car play. You can't
Mhm.
just play in the car and then get out with your pants completely soaked,
Yeah.
just public play. We're going to talk about remote controlled toys and using those out in public and stuff. Thinking about things like that, they're not going to be able to experience that maybe because they squirt every time. So, I feel like it can also have downplays. And one of the things that I always tell people too is whenever they come to me and they want to know about squirting or they want to learn how to squirt, is it you that truly wants to know about this, or is somebody behind you pushing you towards this kink? Is somebody wanting this for you? Because some women, if you start it, And once the gates are opened, you might not be able to shut it. You might squirt every single time now. Because like how you described earlier, whenever you're having that G-spot stimulation, most squirting orgasms are going to come from that deeper G-spot stimulation, which your G-spot is technically your clitoris that you're still stimulating just in a different area. It is like you're going to pee. You have that sensation and that feeling like you're going to urinate. And that's when you literally have to just push past it and have that push feeling almost, but not tense, keeping your body relaxed. And that's when the squirting usually happens. So I feel like there are people who could look at it both ways, but I always say, make sure it's something that you want to do and you want to learn how to perform, not necessarily just somebody else who wants it for you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on and talking to us about squirting. I think I have a better idea of how it happens. I know I can do it, but I have not done it with Scott. Like he hasn't done it with me or whatever. So I think I may play around with some toys and seeing if I can make my own self squirt. And to your point, it's not something that you want every time necessarily. And so being intentional in tonight, we're going to be really wet and wild. It's Wet and Wild Wednesday. I don't know. You just like make it up.
I'm curious. And if you talk to your girlfriend, just maybe hearing from her point of view, I wonder if she's ever struggled with, being able to have a masturbating practice or things like that because she's been a squirter. So I feel like we've come up with so many side topics on this episode. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always fun. For those of you listening, if you want to hear something specific from Sierra or you want to put in a new request, you can either drop it below in the comments. You can DM me, and she's also in our group, so she'll see it as well. But thank you again for being on. Bye, girl.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.
Hey there. Did you know that I do online coaching? Yes, I do online coaching in the sex and relationship space. Some of the topics that are near and dear to my heart are open relationships. So that includes polyamory, swinging, or what we call the lifestyle. I also love conversations around online dating. We're talking Bumble, Tinder, Field, and more. And then the last thing that is really passionate and close to my heart is conscious uncoupling. So if any of these topics sound interesting to you and you'd love to get some coaching from me, check out the link in the show notes or the link in my bio for more information on coaching with Jen.